My girlfriend gave me an ultimatum about our vacation, so I took it. Let me give you some background so you understand the dynamic we had. Vanessa works in marketing for a luxury brand, and she's always been very particular about appearances and experiences. When we first started dating, I actually found it attractive. She had this confidence about what she wanted, this ability to spot quality that I thought was sophisticated. She'd introduce me to restaurants I'd never heard of, point out details in hotels or experiences that I would have missed. But over time, what started as helpful suggestions became more like requirements. She'd get visibly disappointed if I picked a restaurant that didn't meet her criteria, or if I suggested an activity she considered basic. I started second-guessing every choice I made, always wondering if it would be good enough for her standards. So we'd been planning this trip to Cabo for months. I'm talking about a proper vacation. I spent weeks researching the perfect resort, reading reviews, comparing amenities. I finally settled on this beautiful 5-star place that had everything. I booked us their ocean view suite, which came with a massive balcony, separate living area, marble bathroom with a soaking tub, the works. Cost me about $4,500 for the week, which isn't pocket change for me even though I do all right financially working in tech. The weeks leading up to the trip, she seemed excited. She'd show me outfits she was planning to pack, talk about which restaurants at the resort we should try first, send me articles about things to do in Cabo. I thought we were on the same page about how amazing this was going to be. The morning of our flight, we were in the Uber heading to the airport. I was excited. She seemed excited. Everything was good. Then she asked to see the confirmation email on my phone to check our flight details. No problem, right? I handed it over. That's when everything went sideways. She was scrolling through the resort confirmation and suddenly her whole mood changed. Jeremy, what room category is this? I told her it was the Ocean View Suite. Really nice place, showed her the photos I'd screenshotted when booking. But apparently that wasn't good enough. She was looking up the resort website and found out there was an even more expensive category, some presidential suite that was like $800 more per night. You didn't book the best room, she said, and I could hear the disappointment in her voice turning into something else. I explained that the room I booked was already amazing, had everything we needed, but she was not having it. She started going on about how if I really cared about making this special for us, I would have gotten the absolute best room available. Then at one point she actually turned to me and said, "Either you call the resort and upgrade the suite or I'm not going." I thought she was joking at first, but the look on her face, she was dead serious. A straight-up ultimatum, and that's when something clicked in my brain. This wasn't the first time she'd done this. There was the time she demanded I return a birthday gift because it wasn't from the right jewelry store. Then there was the time she refused to go to dinner with my college friends because the restaurant wasn't fancy enough for her standards. Every single time I'd caved. I'd apologize, fix whatever she was upset about, do whatever it took to keep the peace. But sitting in that car with her literally threatening to ruin our entire vacation over a room upgrade, something just broke. "You know what?" I said. "You're absolutely right." She smiled, thinking she'd won again. But then I pulled out my phone. "If you don't want to go with the room I booked, you shouldn't have to." And right there, with her watching, I called the airline and canceled her ticket. Then I called the resort and canceled her portion of the booking. The look on her face was something I'll never forget, pure shock, like she couldn't believe someone had actually called her bluff. "What the hell are you doing?" She was practically screaming. "You said you weren't going. I'm making sure you don't have to compromise your standards." She immediately started backtracking. "I didn't mean it like that, you know I want to go. I was just trying to make our trip special." But I was done. I told the Uber driver to make a stop so she could get out and catch a ride home. Then I went to the airport and took my vacation. Alone. Reddit, I know this sounds harsh, but I've never felt more clear-headed about a decision in my life. I'm just wondering if I'm the asshole here for taking her ultimatum literally like that. Edit, holy crap, this blew up. Thanks for all the support, guys. Currently on my flight back home, and reading these comments is honestly making me realize how messed up this pattern was. To answer some questions, yes, she's been blowing up my phone the entire week. No, I haven't answered. And yes, I had an amazing time. More details coming in an update post. Update 1. Posted 3 days later. Hey Reddit. Op here with the vacation ultimatum story. So let me tell you about the vacation itself, because honestly it was the best solo trip I've ever taken. After I dropped Vanessa off and went to the airport alone, I'll admit the first few hours were weird. I kept expecting to feel guilty or regret my decision, but it never came. Instead, I felt this strange sense of relief. The resort was absolutely gorgeous. The room I'd booked, the one that apparently wasn't good enough, had this massive balcony overlooking the ocean, a bathroom bigger than some apartments I've lived in, and a view that made me forget about everything back home. I spent the first evening just sitting on that balcony with a beer, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors I don't think I'd ever really noticed before, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt that peaceful. The next morning, I woke up naturally around 7 a.m., no alarm, no anxiety about what mood Vanessa might be in, no mental checklist of things I needed to do to keep her happy. Just peace. I ordered room service, something Vanessa always said was wasteful when you could just go to the restaurant. Sat on my balcony eating fresh fruit and amazing coffee, and actually enjoyed it instead of rushing through breakfast. The second day, I'm at the resort's beachside bar around sunset, just watching the water and nursing a margarita. This woman at the next table is doing the same thing, solo, reading a book, looking completely content. I noticed because she was laughing at something in her book, this genuine, carefree laugh that I realized I hadn't heard from Vanessa in. I couldn't even remember how long. It always felt like a performance with her somehow. We ended up striking up a conversation when she asked me to watch her stuff while she went to get another drink. Her name was Mia, she's 29, from Denver, and she's a nurse taking her first real vacation she'd always wanted to in 2 years. And guys, talking to her was so easy. We discussed travel, our jobs, books, random observations about the resort. No judgment, no criticism, no walking on eggshells worried about saying the wrong thing. When I mentioned I was originally supposed to be here with my girlfriend but things didn't work out, she didn't pry or judge. She just said, well, solo travel can be pretty amazing too, and changed the subject. We ended up hanging out for most of the week, and it was honestly the most refreshing human interaction I'd had in months. Nothing romantic, just genuine friendship and shared experiences. She never once criticized my choices or demanded I change plans to accommodate some impossible standard. When I suggested activities, she was either into it or politely suggested alternatives. Like actual alternatives, not ultimatums. Normal human interaction that I'd apparently forgotten was possible. It made me realize how exhausting my relationship with Vanessa had become. I'd been so focused on managing her moods and avoiding her ultimatums that I'd forgotten what it felt like to just enjoy someone's company. Meanwhile, my phone was lighting up constantly the entire week. Vanessa was cycling through every emotion and manipulation tactic you can imagine, and watching the pattern from a distance was honestly eye-opening. First it was anger, lots of texts about how I'm childish and cruel for abandoning her. Messages like, I can't believe you would do something so immature, and this is not how adults handle disagreements. She sent me screenshots of flights to Cabo that she was considering booking, but wanted me to apologize first before she'd come. Then came the guilt trips about how she was heartbroken and couldn't believe I'd choose a vacation over our relationship. Long voice messages where she was crying about how she thought we were building something real together and how she never expected me to be so vindictive. She kept saying things like, I hope you're happy, in this tone that was clearly meant to make me feel terrible. By day 3, she was trying a different approach. Suddenly, it was all about how she overreacted and just wanted us to have the perfect trip together. She sent me photos of the presidential suite from the resort website with messages like, maybe next time we can afford this together. And I was just excited about our first big trip. She was trying to rewrite history, making it seem like we were on the same team, and she'd never made unreasonable demands. Day 4 brought the mutual friend recruitment. She had her friend Lisa call me to check in and see how I was doing. Lisa tried to play mediator, saying things like, you know how Vanessa gets when she's stressed about wanting things to be perfect, and she really loves you, she just has a hard time expressing it sometimes. I was polite but firm. This was between Vanessa and me. Day 5 was when she tried calling my mom. My mom, for real. Apparently she was worried about me because I wasn't responding to her messages and she thought something might have happened. She told my mom she was concerned about my mental state because I was acting erratically. My mom, bless her, saw right through it. She just told Vanessa she was sure I was fine and could handle myself, then called me later to make sure I actually was okay and to tell me what happened. The final few days, the messages got desperate. Long paragraphs about how she realized she'd been demanding and wanted to work on it. How she loved me and couldn't imagine losing me over something so stupid. Promises to go to counseling, to change, to be better. But you know what? Sitting on that beach, finally relaxed for the first time in months, I realized that even if she could change, and that's a big if, I wasn't sure I wanted to anymore. When Mia and I were saying goodbye at the airport, she said something that stuck with me. You seem so much lighter than when I first met you, like you've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. She was right. I had been carrying something heavy, the weight of a relationship where I was always wrong, always needing to do more, be more, give more. I'm flying back home tomorrow. Vanessa is still texting daily, still convinced we can work this out. But I think I already know what needs to happen. Update 2. Posted 1 week later. Alright Reddit, here's the update about that conversation with Vanessa I'd been dreading. So I got back from Cabo Sunday night. Vanessa had been texting me that she wanted to come over and talk through everything the moment I landed. I was exhausted after the flight and honestly couldn't bring myself to deal with whatever she was planning. So I told her we could meet for coffee Monday evening, neutral location, public place, time limit. Monday came around and she showed up to the coffee shop looking different. Hair done, makeup perfect, wearing this dress I'd complimented her on months ago. Clearly she'd put thought into her appearance. She was armed with what seemed like a rehearsed speech. I know I've been difficult lately, she started, and I want you to know I'm ready to work on that. I've been thinking about us all week, and I realize how lucky I am to have someone who cares about me enough to plan amazing trips and put up with my perfectionist tendencies. So that's what we're calling giving ultimatums until your partner caves now. She went on for probably 10 minutes about how she wanted to go to couples counseling, how she'd been stressed from work, and taking it out on me, how she never meant for her suggestions to come across as demands. She even offered to pay me back for her portion of the trip I'd canceled. The whole time she was talking, I was thinking about that conversation with Mia at the airport, about how light I'd felt that whole week. When Vanessa finally stopped talking, she looked at me expectantly, like she was waiting for me to feel guilty about how hard she was trying, to apologize for overreacting, and to agree we could fix this together. Instead, I said, Vanessa, do you remember the ultimatum you gave me in the car? She jumped in with an excuse almost instantly. I wasn't thinking clearly, I was just frustrated about wanting our trip to be perfect. Do you remember the ultimatum about the restaurant with my college friends then? Or the jewelry store? She got quiet then. Because I remember all of them. And what I realized this week is that you don't give ultimatums when you're frustrated. You give them because they work. Because I always cave and give you what you want to avoid the conflict. She started to protest, but I held up my hand. I'm not angry anymore, Vanessa. I'm actually grateful this happened because it showed me what our relationship really was. It wasn't a partnership. It was me managing your emotions and trying to meet standards that kept changing every time I thought I'd figured them out. That's when her demeanor started to shift. The sweet, apologetic girlfriend act was slipping. So what, you're breaking up with me over one fight, over a hotel room? I'm ending this because I spent a week remembering what it feels like to have someone enjoy my company without constantly finding fault with my choices. I remembered what it's like to make a decision without worrying about whether it's going to trigger the next ultimatum. She tried a few more approaches after that. First came the tears. Her voice was shaking when she said, "Jeremy, please, I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I love you so much, I can't lose you over something so stupid." When that didn't work, the anger returned. "Fine, so you're just going to throw away 2 years, just like that. After everything I've done for you, all the ways I've helped you improve yourself." I stayed quiet, which seemed to frustrate her more. "And the money, Jeremy. Do you realize how much money you wasted on that trip? $4,000. That's completely financially irresponsible and immature." I couldn't help but smile at that one. "It wasn't wasted, Vanessa. I had a great time." Her eyes flashed. "Oh, really? Having a great time living it up while your girlfriend was sitting at home heartbroken? I'm sure you loved having that whole resort to yourself, probably flirting with every woman there." That's when I stood up to leave. The conversation was heading nowhere. But as I reached for my wallet to pay for coffee, she said something that confirmed everything I'd been thinking. "You'll regret this, you know. You know how hard it is to find someone who actually cares about having nice things and experiences. Most women won't push you to be better like I do. They'll just let you settle for mediocre." I looked at her for a moment, seeing her clearly for maybe the first time. In her mind, the ultimatums, the constant criticism, the impossible standards, she genuinely believed she was helping me be better. She couldn't see that what she was actually doing was training me to see myself through her eyes, where nothing I did was ever quite enough. "If you really want to change and work on yourself, that's great," I said, leaving money on the table. "But do it for you, not for me. We're done." And I walked out. That night, my sister Emma called me. She's 2 years older than me and has always been good at reading people. Mom had filled her in on Vanessa's phone call and the whole situation, so she called to check in. When I told her everything that happened, there was this long pause, and then she said, "Jeremy, I'm so proud of you." "For what?" "For finally standing up for yourself. Do you know how many times I wanted to shake you these past 2 years? Vanessa has been slowly isolating you and making you doubt yourself. And we all saw it happening, but you seemed so convinced she was helping you grow or whatever. It's been a few days now, and Vanessa has texted a couple more times, but they're different now. Less desperate, more cold. Something about how I led her on and wasted her time if I was never serious about our future. How she deserves better than someone who abandons people, and how I showed my true character. The irony wasn't lost on me, though. She was supposedly so over me and above this whole situation, yet she was still the one reaching out every few days to tell me how much she didn't need me. If you're truly done with someone, you don't keep texting them to let them know how done you are. Which honestly just confirms I made the right choice. I don't know what's next for me relationship-wise, but I know what I won't accept anymore. I won't be with someone who treats love like a negotiation where they hold all the cards. And I definitely won't let anyone use ultimatums to control my decisions ever again. Final update. Posted 6 months later. Hey everyone. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to give you all a final update since so many people have been asking how things turned out. First off, I'm doing incredible. Like, genuinely the happiest I've been in years. The relief I felt that first week has only gotten stronger with time. A few updates on how things have played out. Vanessa did go quiet for a while before she started trying the accidental text approach about a month after our coffee shop conversation. You know, the oops, wrong number, how are you doing thing. I didn't respond, obviously. Then she tried having a mutual friend reach out to see if I was open to talking. I politely told the friend I was moving forward and hoped she was doing the same. Vanessa eventually gave up after a week or so. The last I heard, she's finally moved on and started dating someone new. Good for her, honestly. I hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for, or better yet, figures out that happiness comes from within, not from controlling other people's choices. As for me, remember Mia, the woman I met in Cabo? Well, we'd kept in touch as friends. A few months after the trip, she mentioned she was considering a job offer in my city, and I offered to show her around different neighborhoods if she came to visit. Her visit happened about 4 months after Cabo. She was genuinely exploring the job opportunity, and I was happy to play tour guide. We spent the weekend checking out different areas, trying local restaurants, just catching up as friends. But by the end of that weekend, I realized this friendship had become something more, at least for me. I was terrified of messing it up, especially since I was still figuring things out after got out of a serious relationship and didn't want to lose a good friend. Turns out she was feeling the same way. On her last night here, we were having dinner at this little Italian place near my apartment. Nothing fancy, just good food and easy conversation, and she said, "I have to ask you something, and if I'm reading this wrong, just pretend I never said it. But have you thought about us as more than friends?" Mia ended up taking the job offer and moving to my city. We've been dating for 3 months now, and guys, this is what a healthy relationship feels like. When Mia disagrees with something I've suggested, she just says so and suggests an alternative. When I do something that bothers her, she brings it up directly instead of letting it build into resentment or using it as ammunition later. It sounds so simple, but after 2 years with Vanessa, the absence of drama feels like a miracle. Actually, I ran into Vanessa about a month ago at a coffee shop downtown. I was there with Mia and Vanessa was alone. When she saw me, I braced myself for drama, but instead she just gave a small wave. After a moment, she did approach our table. "Hi, Jeremy," she said quietly. "I don't want to interrupt, I wanted to say something if that's okay." Mia squeezed my hand under the table and said she'd give us a minute, but Vanessa shook her head. "No, please stay. This concerns you too, in a way." She looked at me directly. "I wanted to apologize, really apologize. My boyfriend now, he's helped me see how awful I was to you." I was honestly stunned. This wasn't the Vanessa I knew. There was no performance, no underlying agenda I could detect. "He doesn't put up with the ultimatum thing," she continued, looking genuinely embarrassed. "The first time I tried it with him, he just calmly said okay and left. Then he came back the next day and told me that if I wanted to be with him, I needed to learn how to communicate like an adult instead of making threats." She paused, looking down at her hands. "It made me realize how toxic I'd been with you. I spent so long thinking I was helping you become better, but I was really just trying to control everything because I was terrified of not being good enough myself. I'm really sorry for everything." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad for the time we'd both lost. "I'm glad you're working on yourself," I said finally, "and I appreciate the apology. That takes courage." She nodded and actually looked relieved. "I won't bother you again. I just needed you to know that I know now. Take care, Jeremy." And she walked away. Mia looked at me with raised eyebrows. Well, that was unexpected. It was. But it also confirmed something I'd been thinking. People can change, but that doesn't mean you have to stick around for their growth journey, especially when they're hurting you in the process. I'm genuinely happy that Vanessa is working on herself, but I have no regrets about not being there for that transformation. I chose happiness and I've never looked back. That's it from me, Reddit. Thanks for being there when I needed perspective. You guys are the best.